let's have some real talk. It's going to be a tight race until the very end.
So you got to get out there and vote.
Okay, all right, that's it, right? That's the message, the closing message. I want to take you to the board right now and show you what came out last night. This is Wall Street Journal now. It's a national poll. Everything you're about to see is within the margin of error, okay? Wall Street Journal has got Trump up 2 points nationally, 47-45, which pretty much matches what we put out last week at the Fox News Channel, 50-48. Reuters has Harris with a 3-point advantage here, and USA Today has Harris with a 1-point lead. But again, all this stuff within the margin of error. You can poke around yourself and find a lot of things out there like the swing states. There are a lot of people voting in Georgia, by the way. 30% of the estimated vote has already cast a ballot in Georgia. It's amazing stuff. And they got a great website, too, by the way, if you want to check that out and go deep into the weeds, as we say. We think Georgia right now, according to the Marist poll anyway, is a tie. Arizona Marist poll has got Trump up a point, and North Carolina, they've got Trump up 2 points. But again, all this stuff is within the margin of error. Every yellow state you see in this map right now is having some form of voting. Right now, okay? And I want to do something here. If I can go ahead and find it on the calendar, we are toward the end of October, coming up on Halloween. We are here Thursday, October 24th, and today, early in-person begins in the state of Maryland. But on Saturday, let me try and do this here. On Saturday, you got early in-person voting, and we're going to get a measure of what's happening in Florida, and we're going to be able to gauge Trump's strength down there. Michigan, meanwhile, also early in person that day, which you know is a critical battleground state. In addition to New Jersey and New York, don't want to discount them. I mean, their votes matter right now, but Saturday is a big day. I want to bring, speaking of being in the weeds, Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics, with me now. Tom, good morning to you. The website you run right now has the national average, Trump 48.7, Trump 48.5, and Harris 48.7. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, this race, Kamala Harris had a 2-point lead in our RCP two-way national average just a couple of weeks ago. But as you mentioned, the Wall Street Journal poll came out last night. CNBC came out this morning with Trump up 2. And so that lead has shrunk now to the point where if the trend continues, he'll move ahead in our national average sometime in the next 24 hours if we get another poll that sort of confirms that he's got some forward momentum.
Okay, on the national level, you're right about that. Swing states matter, though, as you well know. We've got 7 battleground states. We've been looking at them for months now. Nate Silver, New York Times. Here we go. My gut says Donald Trump. And my guess is that it is true for many anxious Democrats, but a 50-50 forecast really does mean 50-50, and you should be open to the possibility that those forecasts are wrong, and that could be the case equally in the direction of Mr. Trump and Ms. Harris. I don't know how you answer that, Tom. I think it is the question that we get more than any others. You undercounted in 2016, you undercounted in 2020. You're trying to compensate for that now. Can the pollsters do it? Can they be right?
Well, I tell everybody this is one of Don Rumsfeld's great. It's the known unknown, right? We know it's an issue, but we can't possibly know whether the outcome until all of the votes are counted. I will say, obviously, the polls did undercount Trump in 2016. They were worse at the national level in 2020. But for example, in Pennsylvania, our RCP average was 1.2%. That's exactly what the vote came in at. And so, look, most of these races in the 7 battleground states are, within the margin of error, as you mentioned, and within a single point. It looks like Trump's gotten a little bit of separation in Georgia and a little bit of separation in Arizona. But look, Harris's most likely path is still through Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. She would win 270, 268. And those races, I mean, I think 6 of the last 9 polls we have in our average in Wisconsin are an absolute tie. So it is that close. And I think it is going to come down to, as you said, who can get their voters out, who can find those ballots and harvest those ballots. The Democrats have proven they've got a pretty good ground game, and they are banking on that being the difference in this race.
All right, you mentioned Pennsylvania. Come back to that in a moment. Kellyanne Conway with us yesterday on America's Newsroom.
Donald Trump, 2024, is repeating what he did in 2016, blanketing and blitzing these swing states, as is J.D. Vance, who's been to Pennsylvania 19 times since he became the vice presidential nominee. And Kamala Harris is doing what Hillary Clinton did. She's somewhat ignoring these 3 blue wall states in favor of Texas.
That last answer is a reference to a visit in Houston on Friday. Here we go, Politico. Pennsylvania is such a mess. Inside Team Harris's unusual levels of finger pointing. This is a very long article, Tom. It's online now. They've got a lot of sourcing on there, and they mention names, which you don't often find in a lot of pieces. What was your take on that in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, well, when you start to see articles like this where people are leaking to Politico and other news outlets and sort of, showing the level of frustration and anxiety they have, it's obviously never a good sign for the campaign. And Pennsylvania is. I mean, listen, it is 19 electoral votes. It cannot be replaced by any other state. If you lose Pennsylvania, you have to win 2 other states to get those 19 electoral votes back, which is why both campaigns are fighting so furiously for it. We just had a poll come out today, Bill, the Franklin and Marshall, the final poll in Pennsylvania. It has Donald Trump up 1 point among likely voters, 50-49. That is a 4-point swing in his favor since their last poll last month. And just as a point of reference, the Franklin and Marshall final poll in 2020 had Biden up 6 points. And as I mentioned, he won by 1.2. So it's a pretty favorable poll for Donald Trump. But again, still some time left in the state.
Got it quickly. 538 in Pennsylvania. It's got Harris trailing by 0.2 of a point. Your average, Real Clear, has Trump leading by 0.5 point. Whew. That's why you watch. Thank you, Tom, for coming on. We'll talk soon. Tom Bevan, Real Clear. Thanks, you.
Bill.
Closing in now, final week of the election. A new Wall Street Journal poll came out last night. Both candidates running neck and neck. Here we go. National poll. VP Harris at 45, Donald Trump at 47. She was on a CNN town hall last night and grilled on a wide range of issues and served up what was considered by many to be a lot of vague answers. And this is kind of how that went down.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
3 weeks before the first presidential debate with Joe Biden, you institute executive actions that had a dramatic impact, really shut down people crossing over. Why didn't your administration do that in 2022, 2023?
We have cut the flow of immigration by over half.
Why not do it in 2022, 2023?
Because we were working with Congress.
What would you do to bring prices down for Americans?
I took on price gouging. And part of my plan is to create a new approach that is the first time that we will have a national ban on price gouging. And we need to have laws in place that make those who would commit crimes on behalf of anti-Semitism and hate, that they pay a serious consequence. But I'm going to tell you what doesn't help. Go online to listen to John Kelly, the former chief of staff of Donald Trump, who has told us, Donald Trump said, why aren't my generals like those of Hitler's?
There's a whole lot there in that soundbite. Jim Messina from the left, my right. Karl Rove to the left, from the right. My left.
Wow, that's
that?
confusing.
Well done.
Yeah, now they're confused.
Let's go, guys. You look at the numbers every day. Where's the race now? You go.
Coin toss. Rather be him than her, but because he's got a lead on the economy, the inflation, and the border. But this is tied, and anybody who tells you how this is going to turn out, every morning I get up and take 538 Real Clear Politics and Silver Bulletin and take the numbers for each one of the 7 states, battleground states, and so we got 21 data points. In 2 instances out of that 21, the lead for, in this case, Donald Trump is 2 points or better. 5, the lead for either him or her is between 1% and 2%, and 14 of them are less than 1%. So it's a toss-up.
Mm-hmm. Does she have the momentum that she needs to try to close this out? If it is a coin toss, do you think she can edge ahead?
I do for 2 reasons. One, I think she's got room to grow. Fully a fifth of undecided voters say they don't know enough about her, and so she's got some room to grow there. Second, she's investing hundreds of millions of dollars in a ground operation, and I think Carl's exactly right. This is a coin toss race, and if it's a coin toss race, their bet is they can win it on the ground.
Okay. The New York Times last night watched that town hall. They thought there was a lot of vacuous answers, and that's how they scored it. Donald Trump, what he's doing at these rallies is he gets to this point where he gets like a minute and a half where he says, this is what I'm going to do. And everything he says is a headline on a policy that he would support. Here's an example from last night, Duluth, Georgia. Check it out.
We're going to close the borders first day, first hour, first minute. We're going to close our borders. We're going to take the criminals immediately. We will deport the criminals. We're going to get them out fast. We're going to get them out fast.
We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to get our energy prices down. We're going to get our country back in order. And I think we're going to have, Bert, I think we're going to have the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
When you were doing campaigns, both of you gentlemen, how important was it to make a succinct closing argument?
Very important, and obviously the emphasis on being optimistic is important, but he keeps stepping on this, talking about, Arnold Palmer's privates and, saying, 39 minutes of dance music. This is the most disciplined campaign his staff has run, but he remains undisciplined, and in the next 12 days, you need to have him saying that kind of thing with a little bit more depth and substance to it, and less on the sort of the riffing that has caused people to, if he says something sort of wild, the media is going to cover the wild thing rather than the substantive thing, and the substantive thing is what's going to sell the voters.
Jim, I wanted to ask you this, because based on the answer that you had before, if you could pull up call for number 4, this is a Wall Street Journal poll, who voters trust more on the top issues. Trump's ahead by 15 points on immigration, 12 points on the economy, and 9 points on crime. Israel's war, he's up 15. She's up 14 on abortion, on those 5 issues. You said she has room to grow, but we're 12 days out. Does she have time to grow?
It's a good question. She's in her 92nd day in the campaign. This is more like a European snap election than anything else. And so this is her big challenge. If she loses, it'll be in part because she wasn't the nominee in time to really grow. But she's got a succinct message. I think the best part of that CNN town hall was at the very end when she had her closing and she said, look, he's in it for himself. He has an enemies list and I have a to-do list for the American public. If that's how she can close, then I think she'll be successful. I agree with Carl. That clip you showed was exactly what he needs to do. The problem is the other 91 minutes of that rally were him rambling about Arnold Palmer's genitalia.
This is what Carl writes today. They can't both lose, but either one could. That is in the Wall Street.
Way to stick your neck out.
I didn't write the headline, but I think it's a pretty darn good one.
That's what you say all the time. Listen, I know you're scouring the early vote, as many of us are. I think Georgia, and I've told our viewers this last hour, they have an extraordinary website. And 30% of the expected vote in Georgia has already been banked. And they break it down primarily on race, white and African American. What appears obvious to me is that in the state of Nevada, Republicans are voting early and in big numbers. What also appears apparent to me is that in Georgia, African Americans are not voting at a level where you need to win statewide. Conversely, you can make a case that more women are voting, and I don't know if that plays to abortion against Trump. But these are all little pieces that we're trying to maybe push and pull every day.
Yeah, got to be careful because what's good is to compare it to a baseline, but we can't compare it to 2020. With COVID, it was entirely distorted. But you're right, in Nevada, there are 2 things going on in Nevada. One is, I sort of grew up, part of my childhood was spent there. We used to call them the cow counties, but now John Ralston, the preeminent journalist in the state, insists we call them the rurals. But they are deep red. They voted for Trump, 3 and 4 to 1. And they came in heavy, early. But yesterday, the Democrat vote in Clark County, Las Vegas, began to come in and cut the Republican lead on the early vote. But the fact that Republicans are leading on the early vote is representative of something else. The old saw used to be, in Nevada, the Republicans had a shot if the registration gap was 100,000. That is to say, there were less than 100,000 fewer Republicans than Democrats. The gap today, 19,000. 19,000. Now, there's been a growth of what they call in Nevada the nonpartisan. Those are the independents. They're now the largest group, 34% of the electorate, 30% Democrat, 29% Republican. Who those people are is going to determine the outcome of the election, but the Republicans are on the march in the state.
Final word.
I agree in Nevada. I think that's true. But if you look at early vote in Michigan and Pennsylvania, higher than expected African-American turnout. So Carl's right. Nevada's gone from the easiest state when I ran Obama to win to the toughest of the 7 states for exactly that reason. But early vote looks better in the Midwest for the Democrats.
Okay. See who's right.
Great to have you both.
Thank you,
What an
Jim.
honor. Thank you so much.
Karl Rove, thank you guys. On to your next 4 jobs today.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley